When you've got a roster that's as talented, admittedly, as the Georgia Bulldogs roster is, and you consider yourself a potential championship contender, well, there's only one way that happens. And that is if those guys show up and play the way the coaches expect them to play, the talent evaluators expect them to play, the way we fans expect them to play.
We're not practicing to beat somebody, we're practicing to beat everybody.
My expectation is we go out and dominate and create a nightmare and make people never want to play you again.
If you are a fan of another team and your coach is not out there doing everything that Kirby Smart is doing right now, you are already losing. You feel however you want to feel about that.
Nowhere to run and nowhere to hide for 4 quarters. They got to see us in our house for 4 quarters. They got to look us in the eye for 4. This is about us and our family and our house. This is about us. This is our mentality. We ain't backing down. We ain't running. Set a tone, send a message. This is our house. Physical toughness wins in football now. And if you in this room, you got it. And if you come in here, you better believe in it. Because this physical toughness, it's what makes the difference. Elite focus. That's all I'm doing to the guy across from me. I'm fixing to whip his ass. Not in my box, not today. It's about us. It's about our family. We attack. You take that helmet and you strike them. And you strike them and you strike them. That's how you get respect. Physically, I want to break them.
The roster looks great, but who are the real impact players for the Georgia Bulldogs here in 2026? We're going to talk about that and a lot more on this edition of the How About That Dogs Cast. And I want to jump right in the front here because this is where you have to have your stars play like stars. When you've got a roster that's as talented, admittedly, as the Georgia Bulldogs roster is, and you consider yourself a potential championship contender, well, there's only one way that happens. And that is if those guys show up and play the way the coaches expect them to play, the talent evaluators expect them to play, the way we fans expect them to play. You can't just roll out there, get your NIL money, right? Cash your checks, show up for practice, and expect that that's going to get it done and help you win a championship. That's not how it is. We've talked so long about how guys are in the waiting wings, right? They're waiting their turn. They're working while they wait. They better be. They have been. But now you got to go show it. It's time for you to be the man. Every guy that comes to the University of Georgia comes to the University of Georgia as the man. When they walked off the field at their high school, whether it was at a state championship level or the final game of the year, whatever it was, they walked off the field knowing that they were the best player on the field that game. And the only exception is if you happen to have another Georgia recruit on the team on the other side. Maybe he's as good as you are. Outside of that, you're used to being that guy. You're used to being the dude in the locker room. You were used to being the man that your teammates looked to when a play had to be made in a game, any circumstance. They believed that you were going to get it done because you were the best player on the field. And that is why you wound up at the University of Georgia. Well, now you've done all this work. You've had all these veterans in front of you. It's time for you to go be the man. It's time for you to show us. So tonight we're going to talk about who exactly are the impact players for the Georgia Bulldogs heading into 2026. Kirby Smart wants to stroll out across that stage at SEC Media Days feeling good about his squad, and I'm sure he will. But he also wants to stroll across that stage in Atlanta at the SEC Championship game and raise another trophy. He wants to take a deeper stroll into the college football playoff and potentially raise a national championship trophy. The only way that happens is if Georgia's star players play like stars this year. And you have to start with the most important position on the field, and that's Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar Stockton was everything Georgia needed him to be last year. Georgia, when they lost, did not lose because of Gunnar Stockton. In fact, it's the opposite. He went out and won them more than one football game last year that they probably shouldn't have won. It was all because 14 stepped up and did it when it mattered most. See Tennessee. See the first matchup against Ole Miss. It was because of Gunnar Stockton, not in spite of him, that the Dogs won their second consecutive SEC championship and their third in the last 4 years. Yet, when you look at the 2026 season, Gunnar is a complete afterthought because of all the new shiny baubles here in the SEC. Now, that is in no way a slight to those players. Trinidad Chambliss deserves all the pub he's going to get. You've got guys transferring in other flashy circumstances that are getting plenty of buzz. I could fill up a full hand of quarterbacks that people will talk about before they talk about Gunnar Stockton heading into this year. But if Georgia's going to be an SEC championship contender, it's going to be because Gunnar Stockton improved his play. I think he finished last year somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,700 yards, right? If he gets up around 3,200, then he's improved his game. If he gets to 3,000 yards passing, that might be good enough because we know that he's going to run the football. We know that he's going to lead his team. We know that he's going to show up and play hard-nosed football every week. We know he's tough. But we have to have that execution on the field. But Gunnar can't do it alone. No player can. And he has to have some help. So other guys that are going to have to step up and help him get this done, help him be all he can be here in 2026. Well, it's those pass receivers, offensive linemen. It's everybody else on the squad. So tonight I want to point to an obvious one, and that's Talon Taylor. You don't get to be called a real deal 5-star and then show up and be another guy on the field. That's just not how that gets to play out for you. You don't get to hang out as that guy who is, everybody wants to talk about me. I want all the money. I want all the front headline clippings. I want all that stuff. But man, whatever, throw me 5 balls a game. No. You need to see 8 to 10 balls a game, right? You need to be productive when the ball comes your way. When you have an opportunity to make a play, you have to go make that play. There's no oopsies. I mean, everybody makes a mistake, but not when you're this guy, not when this is the year that you're supposed to be the man. But you're not alone. If you're Talon Taylor, you are not alone. You don't have to catch 100 balls. There are other receivers out there that are going to help you, and they have to help Gunnar too. But when you're talked about the way Talon's been talked about, it's go time. You got to show up. Your impact every week must be measurable. Georgia has to design plays to get you the ball, and when it comes your way, you have to make those plays. Gunnar Stockton has to know that when he throws it to you, either you come down with it or nobody does. That's how you're going to earn the trust for him to give you those shots at 50-50 balls down the field, for those back shoulder throws. It's all right there in front of Talon this year, but he has to go do it. But like I said, he's not alone. The other guy, the yin to his yang, if you will, is ISIAH CANION. He has to be an impact player for Georgia this year. Not that he has to lead the team in receptions. Not that there aren't other guys on the roster that can do what he can do. But he was brought in to be a big-bodied, dependable receiver that Gunnar can look for when he has to have it. Maybe they roll double coverage to Talon. Maybe the play breaks down and you're just looking for the biggest body you can find. That has to be ISIAH CANION for Georgia this year. The young man has the skill set to be a tremendous football player for Georgia, to be a tremendous asset to what they want to do offensively. But we didn't really get to see that at G-Day because he had a little tweaked ankle. He didn't really get to go. Word has it that he is everything that they hoped he would be and more. Now he has to go prove it. This isn't Georgia Tech. Yes, some disrespect intended. This isn't where you can just roll out there in front of a half-empty stadium and catch 4 or 5 balls against Wake Forest. That's not what you're getting into here, Mr. Canyon. Gunnar needs you to be a guy. He doesn't need to have you catch 80 balls. He just needs to have you catch 40 when he throws them to you. And you need to do something with it after you get it. It's yards after the catch when you're as big as you are. You're not the one that's expected to run past people. You're not the one that's expected to win in space with how jittery you are. You are the one that is expected to body up the DB and bring the football down when Gunnar Stockton throws it to you. Could be on a go route, could be over the middle, could be on a screen pass. Whatever it is, you got to catch it and produce with it. There really is no two ways about it here. Georgia only brings in transfers that they expect to have a direct and immediate impact. Do they always get it right? No. They better have gotten this one right. ISIAH CANION has to be an impact player for Georgia here in 2026 if Georgia's going to achieve anything in the way of success that we hope they will. The next guy I want to talk to you about is a true freshman. Yes, a true freshman made this impact players list for me, and it's because of what he can do. We had heard all the scuttlebutt during spring about Mr. Zykie Helton. We had heard how he was getting after it in practice. We had heard how he wasn't afraid to raise his voice and direct other linemen and call other players out for what was happening. And we didn't just hear it from the offensive guys. Remember, before the spring, I said, I want to hear it from the guys they're lining up across from. That's exactly what happened with Zykie. We heard it from defensive linemen, defensive ends, linebackers. They all said the same thing. He's going to be a good one. There's something about him. And when we showed up to G-Day, he was rolling right in there with the ones. That's impressive considering that Georgia was rolling through as many as 15 different offensive linemen. Now I understand they're not all guards, but a bunch of them are. And Zykie Helton said, I have done enough here in spring to get everybody's attention and let you know I deserve some repetition. Now, why is he an impact player for Georgia? Here's a true freshman when you've already got other guys that can play the position he plays. It's because of a couple things. One, the flexibility that him being game ready as a freshman provides for this offensive line. They're still ironing out all the details about who's going to be your starting tackles. They're still ironing out the details of your number one, your number two center. Your number two and number three center behind Bobo. When you've got a guy like Helton that you know you can plug in there to help you out, it just makes all those other moving parts that much easier to work with. It kind of puts the WD-40 in the gears. You know what I mean? You can shift people around as you need to make it happen because you know wherever you put this cat, he's going to go out there and give you everything he's got, and he's going to get the job done. And again, I don't want to overlook his story about how he got here. I'm not going to rehash it. Go watch these other videos that I've done about it. But just know that when he steps on the field, man, he understands this is real, and I might not get to do this again. And he takes every snap seriously. That's the kind of motivation that puts you in the position to be able to contribute the way he is right now. So Zykie Helton absolutely makes my impact players list here in 2026 because of the versatility and the flexibility that he's going to provide to this offensive line. And frankly, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see this young man get bumped back into a heavy running back set where he's a lead blocker. That's the kind of athleticism we're talking about here. That's the kind of, yeah, coach, I want to stick my face in the fan right here. I'm ready. That's the kind of player he is. So when that happens, just remember you heard it here first. Zykie Helton, impact player as a true freshman for the University of Georgia here in 2026. You think I'm done with freshmen? Nope. There's no way I could have a discussion about the players that are going to be the most impactful for the Dogs this year and not include Kaiden Prothro. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I didn't think I would be doing this when he signed with the Dogs back in December. I thought he would play this year, but because he was a little bit of a tweener, I wasn't exactly sure the kind of impact he was going to be able to make, and because that tight end room is so flippin' deep. Yet when we showed up to G-Day and we had heard about it ahead of that day, we saw Kaiden Prothro not line up at tight end, but line up out in the slot as a wide receiver. Frankly, I don't care where you put him. He showed us enough in his limited experience there at game day or G-Day that we all understand why you have to put him on the field. The matchups are just too ripe to ignore. When you have a weapon and an advantage the way Kaiden does against most every other defender out there in the country, you have to take advantage of it. Is he going to mess some stuff up? Yeah. Does he know everything right now and is ready to go? No. Does he have to mature? Yeah. And in spite of all that, you got to put him on the field because the opportunity that he provides you is too great. It's just too great. The athleticism, too impressive. Throw it to him down the seam. Throw it to him on a jump ball. Doesn't matter. Give the kid a chance to go make a play. That's the thing about being a great athlete. You don't have to know everything. All you have to do is do what you do best. And that is, there's the ball, go get it. Kaiden's that kind of guy. He can provide Georgia help at the tight end position for sure, but also at that wide receiver position that everybody has a bunch of questions about this year. You plug this guy in there, walking mismatch. You got to throw the football his way and see what he can do with it. He'll show us whether or not he's ready. He'll show us whether or not he can step up in the moment. My money is that he absolutely can and that he absolutely will, and that Georgia knows it, and the football is going to head his way early in the season. Now, that's it for freshmen right now. But how about a sophomore? Elias Williams. This is the alien of the bunch. If you think Kaiden Prothro has an impressive wingspan or vertical leaping ability or the ability to go to the third floor and leave his defender at the first, take a look at this dude. Take a look at Elias Williams. And he spent last year improving his body, maturing physically and mentally, and developing a bit of a nasty streak that he's going to use this year. I have seen it in the run game. He was pulling around leading blockers or leading running backs at G-Day. This young man is about to have a big old 2026. That doesn't mean he's going to catch 40 balls. It means that every time he's on the field, he is going to have an impact for Georgia. Even if the ball never comes his way. Because of what defenses have to do personnel-wise to match up when you see a guy like this paired with, I don't know, say Kaiden Prothro's in the slot. And by the way, Lawson Lucky or Ethan Barbour or Jaden Riddell has their hand in the dirt along the line of scrimmage alongside them. It changes the way teams play. It gives Georgia's offense more options. So whether he's making plays in the end zone on jump balls, whether he's beating linebackers and nickel players over the middle, whether he is simply on the field and forcing defenses to adjust how they choose to play Georgia, Elias Williams is absolutely going to have an impact this year, and it's going to be so much fun to sit back and see actually how it plays out. Because there are things that will happen that even, I can't look at and go, this is definitely what's going to happen. I mean, I can give you ballpark, look for it, but just watch how they use him. I just think this year for those players in particular, Prothro and Williams, I just think, man, it's going to be so much fun to watch. And none of us can actually know exactly everything they're going to be getting into. But we know enough to know that they're going to have every opportunity to get into some stuff. And man, that's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch. I'll tell you what else is fun. That's hanging out over at How About Them Dogs Plus, where you get everything I do and so much more. A private community. You have an opportunity for exclusive giveaways. You get private live streams, Q&As, all kinds of stuff. If you don't know, ask somebody. Or better yet, click the link in the description below, head on over there and jump on a free trial and just see if you love it. I'm willing to bet that you will, and I hope to see you on the inside. Impact players, if we're going to talk about them, I honestly can't believe it took us this long to get to this next player, Elijah Griffin. Because the one bedrock thing that we heard coming out of spring practice is that 90 is not the same dude he was last year. Not by any stretch. He's stronger. He's experienced. He has opened up his leadership both by how he plays and how he is leading the young men in that room with him right now. He is not the oldest person in that room, but he is absolutely becoming the leader of that room. The name that everybody knows. The most casual college football and Georgia Bulldog fan knows the name Elijah Griffin, and that's right now. Wait until this season is over with. With all that said, boy, he's got to show up and do it. He has to show up for Georgia this year. And if he does, it is going to change Georgia's defense. It will change everything about what they're trying to do. I've said repeatedly, I'm making an assumption that this defensive team is going to be as good as they were last year against the run. I expect them to be better, but they're going to be at least that good. Well, that's because of the assumption I'm making about Elijah Griffin and his presence on the inside right there. So we got the run game locked down. Now let's talk about this pass rush that we had so much concern about last year. Where's that havoc coming from? Elijah, if what they're telling us is true, if what we saw was not a mirage at G-Day, and he is winning one-on-one battles as a pass rusher against interior offensive linemen, or if he is forcing offensive lines to use two, maybe two plus a back to block him, then this pass rush situation is going to take care of itself. Because if you don't stop this monster of a man, then he's going to just wreck shop. And if he's not the one doing it and you are able to hold him off or stop him, that means somebody else is running free. And there are too many good athletes on this defense for Georgia in the positions that would be getting after the passer for somebody to not get home. So Elijah Griffin, if he is going to be the impact that we all believe he will be this year, then Georgia's defense will not look like it looked last year. It will not be the same inconsistent unit that we saw in 25. It will be a unit that is stifling, that will choke you out in the fourth quarter and will make you pay when you get behind the sticks. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, and I'm running the risk of getting out over my skis here. But I'm telling you, that's what I see, what I hear, and what I feel is coming from Elijah Griffin in this defense. And like I said, he doesn't have to do it alone. The other guy that's going to be really having an impact this year, and I understand there are so many wonderful players in that front seven for Georgia that we could point to, I think it's going to be Zayden Walker. Last year, Chris Cole moved into that role a lot where he was the designated pass rusher, and then as the season went along, Zayden sort of jumped in there and helped him out with that. Now, we understand that Gabe Harris and Q Johnson and the other guys that they have, Chase Linton, are going to be doing their part. But I just really believe that we could see Zayden have the kind of pass rush season, the kind of season overall, but especially getting after the quarterback, where it's going to pop and get our attention. Wouldn't surprise me at all if Zayden winds up with 4 sacks, 5, maybe more. I just think if you've got a player like that, based on everything else that's going on around him, that can just pin his ears and go get somebody, I think those numbers will move right on up. And I think that's going to help Georgia in ways that we can't even clearly define here right now. Because again, if you've got pressure coming at you from every side as an offense, you have to pick the one that's you think is going to get to you first. You have to take out the most immediate threat first. If Georgia is able to do what it looks like I think they can do, that's going to be a tall task here for defenses in 2026. The next guy that we have to mention here, and I've already said his name, is Chris Cole. He and Zayden are kind of like mirrors of one another in the way that they have been used, the way that I think they're going to be used this year. You can mix and match them. Cole, again, is the kind of guy that I think could see that 4-sack, 5-sack number without much of a problem. Because if the defensive line is doing what they're supposed to do, and I'm not just talking about Griffin blowing things up, but when you've got your defensive tackles and your 3 techniques and they're occupying blockers and they're being forced to so that they can't help out on the edge, it gives guys like Cole a chance to win. Guys like Walker a chance to win. Quintavious Johnson a chance to win. They should be able to get after the quarterback, but even if they're not, the way they can drop back into coverage, which Zayden can do, which Chris Cole can do, that just makes chaos for a quarterback as he tries to navigate his reads. So it's not just in getting after the quarterback. It's about being able to tackle in space. It's about being able to spy a mobile quarterback. It's about being able to drop into coverage, slip underneath a drag route or a crossing route. These are the kind of things that you can do when you have athletes like the young men we're talking about here tonight. And because Georgia has so many of them, they are free to mix and match as they see fit. That is very, very exciting for me as someone who loves defensive football. We're not done on that side of the ball, though, because if we're talking about impacts, you can't not put the freshman defensive player of the year on that list. He is going to have an impact for Georgia this year. Ellis Robinson IV may be in his final season in Athens like Champ Bailey was. And man, I would hate to see that because I want him to keep playing for Georgia. But that could be the case. So when you're watching ER4 this year, enjoy it because this might be the last run we get at it. I expect Robinson to be able to shut down half the football field. I expect him to be on defenders, much like you see here in this photo if you're looking on YouTube, glued to them in their hip pocket with that wingspan and the reach that he has, making it virtually impossible for guys to get clean looks against him. I expect that to be the case the majority of the year. He's a cornerback. Georgia's going to put him out there on his own a lot. So he will occasionally get beaten. That is the nature of the game. But do not allow yourself to fall into that trap of, man, he got beat for one play and somehow think that he is not absolutely elite and potentially the best cornerback in the country in 2026. Just saying those words tells you that Ellis Robinson is going to be an impact player for Georgia this year. And that, along with everything else that we've talked about on the defensive side of the ball, is part of the reason that he is going to have an opportunity to be an impact player for Georgia. He is going to give Georgia an opportunity to do all kinds of things on the back end, play all kinds of games in the pass rush, do all kinds of disguised coverages because he can just say this guy or this half the field, it's not in play because I'm over here. That's Ellis Robinson. That's what I think is going to happen here in 26. And boy, that's going to be a lot of fun to look at. Now, as I bring it to a close here, there's last position I want to talk about. I want to give you a name and I'm going to sort of sprinkle in a couple others because it really is as much a position as it is a player here. But I have faith that Khalil Barnes is going to be an impact player for Georgia in that he is going to be the guy that settles everything down. Whether they end up playing him at the safety 2 position beside KJ Bolden, or if they happen to move him in and let him play a little star, I think Khalil Barnes is going to be on the field for Georgia most of the year this season. Now, there are other names here that we need to mention, and it could be that any one of these names could replace Barnes as the guy that I think is going to have the impact. But whoever it is that settles that position and gives Georgia the best opportunity to be sound on the back end, that person is an impact player. Clearly, I think it's going to be Khalil Barnes, but it could be Braylon Conley, who we saw flash a lot at G-Day. Understandably, the formations he was playing against were not the most complicated. You know how it is at a scrimmage. But the young man was around the football all day. There's something to be said for that. Gentry Williams, the transfer in from Oklahoma, another guy who has tremendous experience, is a fantastic football player. Whether he ends up being at star or maybe get some time at corner, he is going to contribute back there and is going to help Georgia settle this down. Another name we have to mention would be Jamarly Riddle. If he strolls back there and locks down that safety position alongside Bolden, maybe Barnes bumps up and plays the star. Or maybe Dinkins remains the star. However it shakes out, whoever can step up and lock down one of those spots is going to be impactful because it is going to just put the machinery in place so that the coaching staff can do what they need to do week after week to give Georgia the best opportunity to win. Somebody needs to come in there and handle it. I think it's going to be Khalil Barnes. We will see. But last year, Georgia missed when they went into the portal for DBs. This year, They got a bunch of them, and they all can help. They all had good springs. So who's it going to be? My money is on Khalil Barnes, but it could be any one of these men we talked about. And whoever it is, that's a bit of a joker, a bit of a wild card for Georgia, because if they lock down that safety position so you don't have to worry about it and give Georgia flexibility at the star or vice versa, that just opens up the playbook for Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart. And those two guys with time to prepare and players like this at their disposal, that is absolutely an impactful situation. It's not about just showing up and getting a check at Georgia. Kirby's told us that. But when you're in a transition the way Georgia is right now, where they have lost a lot of players, they've lost some veteran leadership, and now it's time for all of those evaluations to come home to roost on these young players, the way Georgia builds their program through high school recruiting and tactical additions through the portal. Here we are. This is it. This is where you have to show us. There's a greater spotlight put on it when you go about it the way Georgia goes about it. And now is the window where they're flipping on those lights. They're drawing back the curtains, and it's time for these guys that are considered stars to step up and play like stars for Georgia. If they do, the Dogs will be a 10-plus win team this year. The Dogs will be in contention for another trip back to Atlanta and another SEC championship, and pretty much you can put them in the college football playoff in pen. If they don't, then we're talking about a completely different scenario. I'm going to let history and your own wisdom decide what you think is about to unfold in Athens. For me, I think it's time to go hunting. Go Dogs!
Told them, how about them fucking dogs? That's what I told them.